From the water table to our soils to the atmosphere itself, our world is becoming more and more toxic each and every day. But it's not just the air outside that's toxic. Indoor air has been shown to have 2 to 5 times higher concentrations of pollutants than even outdoor air. And most Americans spend 90% of their time inside using toxic chemicals within their homes. There are more than 42 million smokers in the United States. Well over 1,000 types of mold and mildew linked to numerous conditions. And don't forget the fact that 6 million Americans live with pets they're allergic to as well. When I began to research these statistics, it was clear to me it was time to start cleansing my lungs in order to combat the toxic environment that we cannot escape, but that we can fight back against. Made with organic and wild cultivated herbs and manufactured in the USA, the new InfoWars Life Lung Cleanse is here in a convenient spray bottle that can be brought with you throughout any toxic environment. Now available exclusively at InfoWarsLife.com or by calling toll-free 888-253-3139.
I don't know what it is. Ralph just won't pay any attention to me. When he comes home from work, all he ever does is play video games and go to sleep. It's like I don't even exist.
Oh, Betty, that's just awful.
Does this seem familiar? If the answer to this question is yes, then listen carefully. Toxic pesticides, GMO foods and additives, BPA plastics, contaminated water supplies. Many of these toxic additives are deliberately engineered to attack and weaken human masculinity. It's part of the eugenics population control movement. Look it up. If men are more interested in online gaming than they are in their wives, a serious population crisis is soon to follow. Energize the man in your life with Super Male Vitality from InfoWarsLife.com. It's designed to aid the body in ways that help invigorate your natural systems without artificial testosterone, completely free of GMOs, harmful additives, gluten, and is made right here in the USA. Get your Super Male Vitality right now at InfoWarsLife.com or call 1-888-253-3139.
The globalists have controlled the mainstream media for a long time, but now they're expanding and making the weaponization even more vicious and deceptive. All the major networks are state-run.
We are partnering this year with the NFL.
The NFL has become a political weapon against the Second Amendment and pushes Obamacare. MSNBC tells us that our children belong to the state.
We have to break through our kind of private idea that kids belong to their parents or kids belong to their families and recognize that kids belong to whole communities.
It is more important than ever to realize that we are not the alternative media. We are the true media. The establishment dinosaur press is dying.
We are in an information war, and we are losing that war.
Join us at InfoWarsNews.com and PrisonPlanet.tv. Members can share their memberships with up to 11 people. By subscribing, you will literally be buying war bonds in the info war to expand our operation in the face of the tyrants. Join us at PrisonPlanet.tv.
Live from Austin, Texas, broadcasting worldwide, it's Alex Jones.
There are some rivetingly interesting, intriguing articles up on Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. FBI agent synthetic biology could reduce our population. I'm going to be breaking that down. Snowden is a national security state asset, Kurt Nimmo. And I have to say, Kurt's instincts are starting to look like they may be correct, with Snowden basically admitting as much. Bilderberg 2014, reporters arrested as cloak of secrecy descends. There's no footage of the actual arrest because Watson, who shot most of it, was able to creep off. We have him on the line. They seized Radowski's camera and drug him off. Continuing, InfoWars reports on site. There's video of that. Atlanta Mayor Reed to participate in annual Bilderberg meeting. They usually have a mayor of a prominent city there to push globalization because they can get mayors to do end-runs around state and federal government. Look at Austin, that's a model UN city. We've also got an overview of our overlords, Bilderberg 2014, that video report we just premiered here on the radio. It's now up on Infowars.com if you'd like to see it as a radio listener. We have the Bilderberg official agenda that's now been released. We have VA cops stomped on veteran's head, killing him, and more whistleblower news on that front. And a lot of other important news up on Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. Also, trouble adjusting to sexual assault may be getting people booted out of the military. You know, it's funny that whenever something corrupt's going on in the system, that's okay. But then if someone even claims that, out in quote civilian life, you're going to jail for a very long time. I tell you, the government is just so abusive across the board. There's a culture of just getting away with all sorts of hardcore abuse. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the Bilderberg meeting officially kicks off tomorrow in Copenhagen, Denmark. It meets every year, 3 years in a row in Europe, and then every 4th year in the United States, generally in Virginia. And because they've got a special relationship with the head of Marriott, it's generally at a Marriott 5-star resort, surrounded on multiple sides by water. And that's what they've done in the government district of the capital of Denmark, Copenhagen. They have done that yet again. We got the list. We're able to publish it yesterday. DrudgeReport.com carried it. And we're still not seeing any mainstream U.S. media covering it. We are seeing London Guardian cover it. We are seeing some German and other papers covering it, but no U.S. media covering it. Joining us to describe the arrest he witnessed yesterday and the fence they've put up, and they've now shut the hotel down, throwing people out that had reservations right through to today, including Paul Watson, is our own Paul Watson. Then our other reporters that haven't yet been thrown out by security, which is under common law, and we've checked the EU law, they'll be able to be told to get off before they get arrested. So we'll have David Knight and Josh Owens try to go in later today via live video and audio feeds. We'll see if they can get a live Skype feed there on the ground. That's coming up in about an hour. But Paul Watson, a lot is unfolding. A lot is going on. We also have Estelin with a major source breaking down their real agenda that I know dovetails with your intel. You join us via video Skype from your nearby hotel. Break down what you've seen at Bilderberg 2014 as it prepares to officially kick off tomorrow as the kleptocrats begin arriving.
Hi, Alex. Yeah, if you want to pick up from last night, which is when I was last on the show, basically we gathered in the lobby just about an hour after I got off your show, probably. And there are obviously more Bilderberg organisers milling around. There was a plan to go to dinner and kind of earwig on some of them, but mainly they're speaking in Dutch. And so while we were there, obviously we were checked in. That all went smoothly. I checked into the room. We were due to stay there that night. Luke Rudkowski and Dan Dix were also there, obviously, and they decided to go ahead and confront the Bilderberg organisers straight up. So they just walked up to them with the camera, started asking them questions about Bilderberg. At first, they pretended not to know anything about it. Then it became obvious that they did, and the security was called within about 2 minutes. And the issue was they demanded we delete every photo or video that we'd already taken, which is pretty stupid in the days of live streaming and instant uploads to Twitter. So they went around demanding we all delete our footage. Obviously, my plan was to stay in the hotel and gather some intel, so I didn't want to get kicked out.
Yeah, that was a great plan, but that's not going to happen now. Please continue.
So, obviously, Luke and Dan refused to delete their footage. They said, we just want to leave. We're leaving the hotel. Started to walk out the door. We all basically got out of the hotel, but Dan was still in there. They grabbed him by the arm. They physically restrained him. At that point, we left. Luke was still there with Dan, and they called the police and ended up being arrested for, initially they said they had drugs on them, which was completely made up. And then they said they were just acting suspiciously, so they arrested them, and I think they were released within a couple of hours afterwards. But again, it just illustrates the complete paranoia surrounding the site, which is, you know, even worse than it was last year in Watford, basically, where they didn't even let us in. They let us in this time, but the security there is even more intense.
Well, let's get technical. We were in there 3 days before it even started and went in to get dinner. And they all surround us and go, Mr. Jones, you've got to leave. And I said, I'm a guest. I hadn't checked in yet. I wanted to snoop around before I even let them throw me out. And remember, we just kept eating and drinking with the security guys all standing around. They got madder and madder. That was fun.
Well, this time around, I mean, I posted the image on Twitter. They roped off the stairs from the lobby going up to the second floor because Bilderberg has taken over the entire second floor of that hotel. Actually, I went up the emergency back stairs, which are only used by the staff, and you could get to every level apart from 2. They completely sealed off the entrance to level 2 via the back stairs as if it never existed, which was probably some kind of fire hazard or something. And then if you got out on the lift at the second floor, there were people there immediately, ushering you back in. So that's on lockdown. They got people patrolling the bridges around. They're telling ice cream sellers a mile away to look out for suspicious people. If you so much as have a camera anywhere near the hotel, they come and harass you. Today we met with the police liaison, and they've given us a spot right as the cars come in, so we'll be right up against the cars inside the hotel grounds as they come in. As media, that's a different spot from where all the protesters will be, so they're going to allow a limited amount of media, up to 20 people, they said, in that area to take footage, live streaming as Bilderberg members are driving in. So we met with the Dialogue Police, is what they called today. He walked us to the site and pointed out where they'd graciously allow us to stand and take footage. It was made very clear that we couldn't express any kind of opinion or protest, that it was simply for observation and documentation purposes. But, it's certainly a lot better spot than it was last year in Watford.
Well, Paul, I see you're tweeting at your Twitter, and that's great. Please put them out on the Alex Jones channel so a larger audience can see them. Maybe put an article together with some of the photos, because I want people to be able to see them. And I know you're about to have a camera crew there so they can get more out. But people are really ready to see you do some live feeds as well. I'd like you to cover our reporters as they try to go in with a live Ustream feed so that we have multiple angles on that today. That would be excellent. How's your internet working there?
It's not great in the hotel, to be honest. I mean, it's a 4-star hotel, but the internet is not great here. In terms of the area around the hotel, there should be a full cell phone signal.
Well, let's get some live feeds going for all the folks out there quarterbacking this from remote. I know we saw as many as 4,000 at any one time at Watford, biggest crowd ever protesting in England, north of London. What do you expect this year? I know it's more remote. It's more costly in that area. I tried to meet a few years ago, I guess 3 years ago, up on top of Swiss Mountain when you were there. And that became an international debacle, but still hundreds of protesters showed up there. How many do you expect to show up tomorrow?
Well, obviously you don't have the big Alex Jones, David Icke draw, so there certainly won't be anywhere near like there was last year. The organisers were talking about 1,000, but I think that's optimistic. I mean, there's nobody there now. There are no protesters at all. It's completely vacant. Obviously, they'll start to turn up tomorrow, so I would imagine probably 200 or 300 on each day would be a fair guess.
Now, Estlund broke down some of the things on their agenda. Stop the rise of nationalist movements that can block globalization, the bankruptcy of Europe. People really know the EU's unelected, tyrannical now. They talked about their plan to try to block Russian gas supplies, their plan to bring in more and more web censorship. From our sources, Paul, there, I know you're developing sources on the ground as well. Other intel you've got on their agenda?
Well, obviously, the presence of the Supreme Allied Commander of Europe, Philip Breedlove, in addition to Anders Rasmussen, the NATO Secretary General. Remember that every single NATO Secretary General has also been a Bilderberg member. Their presence obviously underlines what we revealed a few days ago beforehand, which was that Ukraine and the collapse of this unipolar agenda is going to be at the head of the table in terms of discussion. And we were actually talking to some US Army who were staying in the hotel as personal protection for the Supreme Allied Commander of Europe, Philip Breedlove. They basically go around the world as his personal protection. So that is going to be a major topic of discussion. Obviously, you've got Christine Lagarde there, who oversaw the stripping and looting of Ukraine with the IMF loans. And you've got the mayor of Atlanta, Kazim Reed. We know that Bill Clinton attended in 1991 as a little-known governor of Arkansas. Then he was elected president, so he looks like...
Same thing with Tony Blair. When they get a mayor or a governor or a senator at the meeting, it means they're being looked at as presidential material.
Exactly, and then the future of democracy and the middle-class trap. And then they're talking about, is the economic recovery sustainable? Which, again, you go back to 2006, they were positioning themselves for the financial collapse. So the fact that they're